Ooh. Just gonna wait for some people to join in so we can discuss. Make sure you share this video. I always like to wait until the news comes out with something, and then that's when I go live about it. So I'm sure you guys saw the newspaper today. I think it was NewJersey.com, and you all saw the article. So what I usually try to do is I wait until they put something out, and then, I pick apart their narrative, because I think it's important to do. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I pick apart their narrative because I think it's important to do. Okay. By the title of this live video, you can tell. Hey, how you doing? By the title of this video, you can tell what we're going to discuss tonight. And this particular title was in the article. And in speaking with some people who are close to law enforcement, as well as some reporters who cover, police-involved incidents, and they've been covering police-involved incidents for many, many years. I had the opportunity to speak to them, and they said in all the years that they've been covering police-involved incidents that related to, civilians and interactions with the police, there is always a narrative. There's always a description as to what happened. There's always a line in there that says, someone fired at the officer, or somebody, lunged at an officer, or somebody tried something against an officer and the officers returned fire, or whatever the case may be. Like, there's always a narrative. Whenever there's a police-involved incident involving a civilian, there is always a narrative. Always. So, for this particular case not to have a narrative, and even the information they do have is extremely little, is because they don't have anything. That's the bottom line. When you tamper with a crime scene, you damage the integrity of the investigation. And the reality is, they planted that gun. And let's go a step further. They're harping on the fact that those cops didn't have body cams. It's like, duh, we know that already. We know they don't have body cams. That's what we were screaming about from day one. And I'm talking about, when I say day one, I'm talking about 2019, when we started making the request and the demand for the body cams. That was back in 2019. Okay, so we've been screaming about that for a minute. And just so happens that those particular officers didn't have body cams that night. But yet, the AG's office puts out a bunch of videos of the responding officers and the EMT workers and what have you. But anybody who studies crime scene collection or preservation, anybody who studies criminal justice will know that the officer responsible for preserving evidence is the officer that's already there. The first officer, the one that's there already. They have to do everything in their power to preserve the evidence that's there. If they tamper with evidence, it disrupts the entire process. Everything hinges on the evidence that's collected at the scene. And when you start tampering with the evidence that's at the scene, you forfeit the integrity of the investigation. So the fact that they put that there's no narrative, the news people, I don't want to call them news people, news reporters, they contacted the Attorney General's office seeking the narrative, which is basically an outline of what happened. And they had to report back that there was no narrative. However, there is a report that says the police initiated what turned out to be Thelonious' murder. And we know they initiated it. We knew that. That wasn't new to us. We knew that. They followed him. They trailed him. You know. They followed him all the way to that location. And I'm trying to get some more information because I also believe that they circled the block waiting for him to come out of that store. Because it's awfully funny how they pull up almost to the second when he comes out of that store. That wasn't coincidence. They were following him. They were hunting him like an animal. And if they were concerned that he had a gun or anybody with him had a gun, why didn't they put all the guys against the wall and frisk everybody? Isn't that normal protocol? To go around someone or to go around the group of people that you believe or you may think that that's the situation. Check them to make sure they don't have any weapons. It's not normal procedure to take someone into a back alley, into a backyard, and search them there. That's not the way it goes, and we know it. We know it. We know it. That's right. So we know for a fact they never had a gun. We know for a fact he never shot at anybody. He certainly didn't shoot at them 9 times. He didn't shoot at all because he didn't have a gun. They wanted, here's my theory. Here's my theory. My theory is RaRa had something on those guys. He knew something that was going to probably cause them to lose their jobs or cause them to end up being arrested. He knew something about those guys, those officers I'm talking about. He knew something about them. Or he either caught them doing something or something. And they knew that if he was able to put that out, that they would either be in jail or lose their jobs or what have you. It's the only thing that comes to mind. There was obviously a reason why they wanted to kill him. It wasn't this wasn't random. They knew who they wanted because they pulled up and they picked him. So it was obviously something that they were hoping to silence him and to make sure that there would be no more talk about whatever it is that they think that he might have known. That's the way they get down. That's the way they get down. They knew that he knew something. He knew something. And they were afraid that if he spoke on what he knew, that somebody was going to jail. I'm talking about the officers. I'm talking about people in the street. I'm talking about those officers or people that are connected to those officers. They were afraid that if he started talking and started explaining what was going on, that some people were going to go to jail. So to try to, what's the way, I want to say this delicately, to try to deal with what they would consider to be their issue, they decided to do away with him in an effort to do what they consider to be solve the problem. So that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with police officers that are gang. Remember, that's the biggest gang out there is the police. Let me make that very plain. The biggest gang in the street right now is the blue gang. And they have a code of silence to where even the so-called good ones can't say anything publicly. And I think it's terrible. It's a disgrace. And so now it seems like they're pretty much going to say that it's their word against ours about what happened, because even the Attorney General's office doesn't have a narrative for what happened. They can't even put into words what happened that night, because we pretty much know what happened. They followed him around. They lured him into that backyard. And that's another thing. If you look at the article that NewJersey.com, NJ.com put out today, they had something in there about an alleyway. It was not an alleyway. It was a backyard. So the officers are already lying on their report by saying it was a backyard. Then they lied. The guy, Muhammad, who reportedly was the kill shot, he claims that RaRa ran away and pointed a gun at him, which was another lie. So and here's the thing. Paterson police officers have a history of submitting false police reports, adding information that wasn't there, changing information that was there to suit their purpose so that it doesn't look like they did anything wrong. Unfortunately for them, there's way too many pictures, too much intel, too much evidence for them to slip through this. So I think the Attorney General's office made a wise decision not to try to create a narrative here and just to let the chips fall where they may. And the reason why I'm saying that is because had the Attorney General's office intervened and said that a gun was there, or that he pointed the gun at the cops, if they had said anything like that, you know how people are in the community, it's harder to get people to see the reality. But for the Attorney General's office to say, hey, look, we don't have a narrative. We can't even tell you what happened because we're not going to lie. We're not going to make up something. And because the scene was tampered with, because that gun was placed there when there was no gun there, and then somebody came back and removed the magazine from the gun, and then they came back and they put the yellow cones next to it, they tampered with that scene. So much so that it destroyed the integrity of the entire investigation. So the AG's office decided they want no parts of it. They washed their hands. They did not submit a narrative about what happened because they don't want any parts of it. And I think that was a bold move, because now the police, they can't say, well, look, the Attorney General put a narrative together and made it plain that the young man fired at them. No, there's no narrative at all. And the information that they did provide, as the newspaper goes on to say, was very limited. So how do you not have enough information for a murder like that, where these officers lured that young man into that backyard and emptied their clips on him? How do you not have anything for that? Because they know how that story went, and they knew what they were going to do. They knew what they were going to do. They were already set. When I say they, I mean those cops. They were set, and they were hell-bent to go there and to kill that young man. Okay? Nope. Matter of fact, they forgot to even put the bags on his hands. They did that later. After they rolled his body over and dragged it to the doorway, they forgot to even do that, because there was no residue on his hands. There was none. They know that this thing is bad. You know what I'm saying? What took place right here was bad. And they know that we know that they mess up. to put it another way, the way y'all are saying is the exact way. They know that we know that they messed up big time this time. Now the question is, exactly when the justice is going to come forward now. Because the community pieced this together before even the AG had a chance to get in there. So without a doubt, we pieced this together as a community. Okay? They knew what they were going to do to him. And like I said, the reason for those of you who are just joining, the reason why I'm on here tonight is because the newspaper put out another article today. And, whenever they put another article out, I like to come on live and break down what it is that they're trying to say at this point to show how crazy and how terrible this situation really is. So for those who are just joining, and I apologize to those who've been on, I just want to recap for those who are just joining. Basically, the news article today said, in part, that the AG's office doesn't even have a narrative on what happened, and the information that they do have, or the story that they do have, is extremely limited. And of course, you have the case where they have no, what's the word I'm looking for? Of course, you then have the case where they have no body cams, which we have been complaining about for a very long time. We have been complaining for a very long time that there are no body cameras. And you know what some of those council members said? Oh, well, it's going to cost money for people to come in and Oprah requests the footage and having to pull the camera footage and this and that. As if we're going to come in there and ask for as if we're going to walk in there and ask for every footage from here to 1985. I mean, please. They know what we're going to ask for. We want to see the camera footage from 2019, and we want to see the camera footage from what happened on December 29th. Unfortunately, those officers that were involved and who did what they did, they didn't have body cams. That's why they actually thought they were going to get away. That's why they started pushing the narrative. They started pushing the narrative in the community that, this was a tough guy and so on and so on. Because I had people calling me with the same nonsense. They're awfully quiet now. But when this all started, I'm telling you, there were black people coming to me saying, he was a tough guy and so on and so on and so on. Those people are real quiet now. I don't hear anything coming from them now. After all of this latest development and things that are coming out in the newspaper and so forth, now all of a sudden, you don't hear anything coming from them. They're extremely quiet, and hopefully they stay that way. Okay? At some point, people are going to get tired of constantly being hunted down like animals, and they're going to start fighting back. That's what's going to happen. Because stuff like this is just ridiculous. Thank you. Stuff like this is ridiculous, man. Stuff like this is absolutely ridiculous. People are going to get tired. They're going to get tired of being hunted down like animals. They're going to start, when you corner an animal long enough, they're going to fight back. How much more do you think people are going to continue to take? So that's a valid point. So we know what happened, and today's article pretty much solidifies what we've been saying from day one, and what you all knew. Everybody knew it from day one. Young man didn't have a gun. He didn't fire at any police officers because he didn't have a gun. And he wasn't running from anybody. He was standing there, minding his business. And again, I have to point out the fact that as he pulled up, or I should say they, because there was a bunch of them in that truck, as they pulled up, they knew exactly who they wanted to grab. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I was listening to the video from the brother, the video that went out, and I was listening to it very carefully and trying to pull apart some of the parts of it because somebody pointed something out to me, and it almost sounds like Thelonious was saying, chill, as if to say, don't do this, or don't do it. It was almost like he was trying to ask them not to do what they were about to do, and then you heard those shots ring out. If somebody has a gun, they're not going to be saying chill, chill. They're not going to be trying to tell somebody to calm down. So it almost sounded like he was trying to ask them not to do what they were about to do before you heard the guns firing off. It's almost like you heard him in the background saying chill, chill. He was saying something he was saying something along the lines of stop or don't do this. You know what I'm saying? Trying to tell them not to do this. Yeah, he was. I thought so. He said chill, chill twice. And I could imagine that his hands were probably in the air because when you're trying to protect yourself, the only thing you have is your hands because he didn't have anything else. So all he was able to do was hold his hands up. He probably said chill, chill and hold his hands up to try to protect himself because he knew what they were about to do. And then you just hear the gunshots fire off. He was assassinated, man, right in that backyard. He was assassinated right in that backyard, man. And for these folks who just keep saying, well, you should just let it go, yes, I knew I heard that. I heard that. Yeah, they were hunting him. They were hunting him without a doubt. Because if they wanted anyone else, they would have taken anyone else. There was a couple of guys there. They could have had their pick of anyone that was there. They went directly to him. They went directly to him. They could have had their pick of whoever they wanted. They went directly to him. And they walked him. They didn't arrest him. They didn't put him up against the wall. They didn't frisk him. They just took him in the back, into the backyard, and y'all know the rest. But again, the reason why I wanted to get on here tonight is because, like I said, the newspaper put out another article. And basically they're saying that there is no narrative. And that's deep. That's very deep because they're basically saying what the community already knows. And whatever nonsense the police are trying to put to it, because you even see them. Oh yeah, absolutely. Plain and simple. Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure you guys heard that too. When the officer said beautiful, when they flipped his body over and you heard that officer say beautiful. Yeah, you can hear all of that on camera. All of that. It's just heartbreaking. That young man basically said chill, chill in terms of trying to get them to stop what they were getting ready to do. And then they just decided to do what they planned to do anyway. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And exactly. There is no possible explanation for why he would be standing there with a gun when they jumped out. Exactly. So even without the newspaper giving us the information they gave us, as a community, we had enough information to know what happened that night. But it's strange because when the newspaper called, they knew what happened. They wrote the story. They told me they have to write the story. But when you listen to their conversation and you listen to the way they talk, when those news reporters call, when you listen to the way they talk, I've never heard news reporters, and I'm going to be honest with y'all, I've never heard news reporters side against the police or raise doubt about what happened in the police-involved incident. I've never heard them do that until this case. This is the first time that reporters would call me being questionable about the situation, and in so many ways basically saying, yeah, the cops killed him. It doesn't sound right. I've never had an incident where police have interviewed me about a police-involved shooting where the newspaper people would be on the side of the victim. They would always be on the side of the police. Well, you think he did this or she did this, or well, you think this might have happened or that happened. But this is the very first time that news reporters will call me, and they've even said something ain't right. The police obviously did something to him. That I've never had that happen before until now. I'm telling y'all, that's never happened to me until now. whenever there were other incidents, police would with the police and so forth, the news reporters would always say, well, he obviously did something, or, well, that's what they would always say. But for this particular incident, there was a news reporter, I'm not going to put his name out there, but there was a news reporter who told me, yeah, I can't understand how they would bring him into a backyard and allow him to shoot at them 9 times and nobody got shot. No officers got shot. I said, exactly. How do they you can't make that make sense. You actually expect us to believe that? Even the news reporters don't believe that, John. And it's very hard to get them to side with the community in those types of situations. It's very difficult. So now you even have news reporters saying something don't smell right. There was obviously something that the police did, that the police obviously hunted this guy down. He was not armed. He was not even looking for any commotion. He went inside the store, came out, stood there and minded his business. They circled that block, waited for him to come out, and proceeded to do what they were planning to do. This wasn't an isolated incident. It wasn't it wasn't just a bad occurrence. It wasn't, one thing leading to another. They knew what they were doing that night. They already had in their minds what they were going to do to that young man, and they already had it planned out. That's why it went as smoothly as it did. When you see them get out of their trucks, walk up to him, walk him in the back, they already had it planned in their mind exactly what they were going to do and when they were going to do it and how they were going to do it, and even the story that they were going to try to put out there. That's why they were manipulating the position of the gun, trying to put it in different places, because they were trying to work out how would the story sound if the gun is over here, or if the gun is over there, or if the gun is over there. They literally sat there and worked it out within their minds of how should we position the gun so that the story makes sense. What they didn't realize is we have pictures of every single position that they put that gun in. Even the pictures when the gun wasn't even in the chair. Okay? All right? So we have all of that. So they messed up. They messed up big time, and they know they messed up big time. And that's kind of why I don't feel as nervous as I have in the past, because they know it. And today, when I saw that newspaper article, and I'm in that article, Councilman Jackson's in that article. If you read that article and you read it carefully, you get to that paragraph, because that's what they usually do. They hide the most important. They hide the most important part of the story. They mix it into the middle of the story. They'll put it in a little paragraph. And if you look at that paragraph, I actually use it for the title, to where there is no narrative, which means the Attorney General is not about to go through being sued for putting out a false statement. That's why there is no narrative from the Attorney General's office about what happened that day, because they refuse to end up being sued for lying on a police report, or corroborating a false police report. The Attorney General's office is not going to co-sign with the Paterson Police Department with what happened with what they did to Thelonious Mcknight. The AG's office is not going to co-sign with them, because if they wanted to co-sign with Paterson, they would have created some sort of narrative for what happened. They created no narrative, and the information that is there is very limited, and that's how they wanted it. They knew that they didn't have body cameras. They knew they didn't have a dash cam in that truck. It was the perfect setup for them, and they knew that because there's no body cam, that they didn't have body cams and there was no dash cam. They felt that it was the perfect setup for them. Thank God for that store. Thank God for that store, the camera that was there. Thank God for that camera. Thank God for the brother and everybody else who was involved in making sure that these people were being recorded. Because if it wasn't for that, they would have got away with a murder without any repercussions, without any communication, without any blowback from the community. It would have just been another lynching. And that's what makes me wonder. We talk about, and this is a conversation that people have a lot. They say, the cops have killed us less than we have ourselves. I don't know. That doesn't sound right to me, because if you think about how many people they've killed when they were being recorded, Just imagine how many people police killed when they were not being recorded, when we didn't have the technology to take pictures and record them and things like that. Think about how many innocent people have been killed by the police that nobody will probably ever know about, because back in those days there was no cameras, there was no huge technology to really be able to record them and hold them accountable. So and you're talking decades and decades and decades of people being killed by police that nobody will probably ever know. Innocent blood that was spilled, just like Thelonious. But the thing is, the difference is with him, at this stage, at this a day and age, we have technology and we have ways that we can record things. But when you go back into the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, when there wasn't that type of technology and it was very hard to record, just imagine how many people they killed in the day with not even having to worry about any blowback or anything like that. Killing people, leaving their bodies in abandoned buildings, sticking needles in their arms and make it look like they had an overdose. Come on now, I'm telling you, there are crooked people everywhere, and the police department is no exception. There are crooked people in every facet of society, and the police department is no exception. Because you have people there. When you have people there, there could be any kind of people. Everybody's not on the up and up. I don't care what profession. Every single profession in life has some good people and has some bad people. Every profession in life. Whether it's doctors, lawyers, nurses, judges, every profession on earth. There's good people and there's bad people. And that also includes the police department. There's good people and there's bad people. Okay? And my thing is this. If the good people don't want to expose the bad people, it puts you in the same boat as the bad people. If you're a good cop and you see something that's going wrong and you don't want to say anything about it, it puts you in the same category as them. Sorry. Puts you in the same category as them. Yeah, well, you know what? Now we know. We knew. I won't even say now we know. We knew. But, when I saw it in the newspaper today, I said to myself that, finally there's some retribution in terms of what these folks do to people every day. And there's another case. Somebody called me today, about an hour and a half ago, about the police running up on somebody, taking their money, and just leaving. Didn't arrest them or anything. Just ran up on them, took their money, and left. Can't put the name out there just yet, or, because obviously there's going to be some other things that need to happen. I'm not even going to put the location just yet. But this is the stuff that's going on all the time. So I hope those people like the mayor's office and others who felt so comfortable saying that he had a gun and this and that, I hope they're going to learn at some point. You got to stop running your mouth if you don't know what's going on. And he said that before anything even came out. The mayor was running around saying that he had a gun. Okay? So those who are just joining, I'm sure that when I log off, you could jump on and, watch the video in its entirety. I'm going to also put this video on YouTube. All right? I'm going to put this video on YouTube. This was a short one tonight. I don't want to be too long with it, but I just wanted to update you guys on the latest article. I'm going to put the article in the comment section. For those who haven't read it yet, I'm going to put the article in the comment section so that way you can read the article. And that's the article that came out today. Okay? So I'm going to sign off. But if they write anything else, or if any more articles or anything else comes up, then I'll come back here again and do another live to constantly debunk what's being said. But I am happy with the article today because we see that the Attorney General refuses to co-sign with Paterson. They didn't add a narrative, and they don't have very much other information about it because of the fact that the evidence was tampered with at the scene. And when evidence is tampered with at the scene, it jeopardizes the integrity of the entire investigation. Oh, wait, you're just joining. You can, as soon as I log off, you can jump on. Absolutely, you can jump on or either stay on. As soon as I end this live, it'll come back up where you can watch it from the beginning. And like I said, if you guys have any question or anything, inbox me. I'm gonna post the article I'm going to post the article now as soon as I log off, so that way you guys can read it. The ones who haven't read the article yet, you can read it, okay? So, all right, I'm gonna turn off now, and then I'm gonna add that link, and then you guys can take a look at it, share the link so other people can read it, and then if you have anything you want to talk about, get back to me. All right, be safe out there, and I'll be talking to you.